How to Train Your Dragon expected to do bigly at the box office this weekend. And Harry Potter. A lot of Harry Potter news today. You're live with the guy every day at noon Central. I got my producer, Nat, right over here.
Hello.
You were on WDW Pro yesterday, so that was a big thing for us. Me and her have never done a guest appearance except on Rob Noor's channel, which is kind of a fringe debate channel.
Yes.
So many people don't know it. But WDW Pro was a huge thing for us.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And that is why we were not, well, your show was not on yesterday morning, but they were great. So
yeah,
really thankful to WDW Pro and the crew.
And they had you on for quite a while. They had you on for 2 hours. So we didn't know what to expect, anything like that. They had you on mainly because your story you did about Pedro Pascal, but then they kept you on for all the different commentary. We got quite a big bump on both our channels, which was nice. We're trying to monetize this English channel right now. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed yet, please do so. It would be a big help. Do you have anything else to say?
I'm just super grateful. And it was great that, as you say, they kept me on and they were very nice and kind.
Yeah, you kind of reached out to them because of your Pedro Pascal story, hoping they would report on it. They actually had you on, but we were kind of nervous because my game plan was let's contact small channels first so we can figure out how streaming technology works and how to link with other shows. We didn't know if we were going to be able to get this. There's a lot of moving parts, and we were just kind of scared we weren't going to get it right. But everything went pretty smooth until the end of the show, where we live in Mexico City, and very often when they work on the power lines outside of our house, our internet goes out because they knocked down the cable. That happened yesterday.
Yes.
We were able to get back on because we connected our phone to our computer, so it wasn't a total disaster.
Yeah, slightly embarrassing that I just disappeared all of a sudden without saying anything, but we managed to get back on, which was good.
Okay, let's go right into the stories now.
Yeah.
And let's go into how to Train Your Dragon.
So How to Train Your Dragon won't be lagging at summer box office with 175 to 185 million global start for a live action redo.
Yeah, and this thing is expected to do huge this weekend. So I believe it's coming out this weekend, correct? Mm-hmm. And so these are estimated numbers. I don't see any major political backlash mounting on this, so I think it should do well. Again, it's kind of like a Lilo and Stitch. You can take your whole family. Universal has really put How to Train Your Dragon as one of their foremost IPs. It's very important that this succeeds for the Universal theme parks and things like that. When I was looking into this, I always see if there is any political statements, things like this. I believe the main actress, Nico Parker, did say a few things, but there hasn't been a major backlash and it hasn't made headline news. Lucky for them. Also, they've changed the script a little bit. The male actor isn't necessarily the leader of the story anymore. He's a co-leader with the female, so maybe a little bit of feminist propaganda, but overall, I think it should go under the radar, kind of like Lilo and Stitch, put a little bit of things for traditionalists and conservatives, a little bit for liberals, and overall is accepted by both audiences when the movie actually came out by box office numbers.
And I think because of the disaster of Snow White and Little Mermaid and a lot of the other live actions from Disney, I think they're getting a pass with this one because as long as it's mostly okay, I think people will be fine with it. And again, when it's a kid's property, it'll do at least slightly okay because it's just parents that want to be able to go take their kids to watch something.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think it would do good with Asian audiences as well. We already seen the South Korean numbers come out early because the movie released early over there. If this does manage to get into the Chinese market, I expect it to do very well. The question is only 32 films get released. American films get released in China every year. So if this can manage to be one of them, it will be big for this property. Also, this is a primarily pop culture channel, but when politics do intersect, I'll talk about it a little bit. Our political shows at night at 9:15 Central, but Trump did negotiate the Chinese deal with the U.S.-China trade relations, the tariffs and everything like that. They're doing the final touches on it, but they released a statement today saying it's basically finalized, which is really good news. It's definitely really good news for Hollywood as well. Before we move on to the next article, maybe I'll give a shout out to Pop Culture Crisis.
Casino.
Oh, what? Oh, sorry. Culture Casino. I always keep
You
saying.
always keep them both mistaken.
Yeah.
When you want to say pop culture.
Culture Casino. His 6-minute dailies are just absolutely phenomenal. If you don't know who Culture Casino is, it's an independent pop culture channel. It has a big influence on this channel specifically, mainly because I'm the one that gathers the stories for this. And he's not only one of my main resources for this channel, but I just enjoy watching him. Okay, he was actually...
Pop Culture Crisis is also good, but...
Pop Culture Crisis is great as well, but for
Casino.
some reason, Culture Casino is the one I like watching the most. Yeah. I don't always like watching the most flashy or big shows. Pop Culture Crisis has over 300,000 subscribers. I believe Culture Casino has around 40,000, so it's a much smaller channel, but I actually prefer his analysis. Although Brett from Pop Culture Crisis as well has really... helped me to keep going. What do I mean? When he first started out, he was absolutely horrible. He was as bad as I was when I started out. And now when I watch him, he literally has the best original takes. He always has a different spin on every single article that other people really aren't talking about. So check out both those stations.
We ended up with 2 channel recommendations.
Yeah. Pop Culture Crisis was on the show yesterday with WDW Pro.
Culture Casino.
Oh, sorry. Culture Casino. And I was hoping he was going to be on there because he is my favorite reoccurring guest.
Yes.
Don't get angry at me. Okay, let's go into the next one here. And this is starting with the Harry Potter news. And there's 3 articles in a row that came up today about Harry Potter. This is the first one, and it is...
So I couldn't actually find an article for this. I found several petitions as well, so I didn't know which one to go for. But it seems like Harry Potter fans, at least some, have started a petition to reverse the casting of Papa Esidu as Snape and demanding that Professor Snape be recast.
They believe he was race swapped. I actually got this story from Pop Culture Crisis. We tried to find an article that would kind of relate, so this is what we came up with. There is a lot of backlash with this Snape character being race swapped. You know a lot more about Harry Potter than I do. You actually already did a story on this, maybe
in Spanish,
2 or 3 weeks ago on our Spanish channel, and it got a fairly good reception, actually a really good reception. I was surprised because I thought it was a pretty horrible thumbnail next to our usual standards, but the subject matter alone kind of drew the views for that, and people are interested in this story, mainly because I think it's very politically related, and it's this backlash of all this race swapping of characters they've been doing.
Yes, and I mean, it has only been one, but because Snape is such an iconic character, which was made iconic by Alan Rickman, I think in everybody's minds, it's one of those where they'll accept the movies more than the book. But even within the book description, it's essentially what they did with Alan Rickman and his voice and the way he played it. And he brought heart and soul and a huge fan base for Professor Snape. Even when he was acting, he was able to withstand that duality that Snape has, where it's a person that has been grieving for decades and be able to appear as like a ghostly figure and make the audience understand why he might have this anger and he might do the things he does all the way until almost the end of the film series. So he played it perfectly, and the fact that they chose that one very beloved character to be race swapped, I think people end up also worried about what will that do to the legacy of Snape. And at the same time, Snape is a very bullied character, let's just say, when he's younger. So what does that bullying now mean when the person is a person of color, and the bullying and some of the lines that they say will either have to be changed or they mean something completely different now that it's a person of color?
Now, I don't personally think they're going to take action and recast this. but it is interesting in the cultural shift that's happening. And this is the first time we're seeing a petition to really reverse the race swap that these studios are trying to do. And I do expect petitions in the future and fan pressure to actually result in recasting of movies. I think this is just the beginning. The reason I don't think this particular movie is going to take action is because it's J.K. Rowling. Now, J.K. Rowling is beloved within the conservative community, but she has very, very progressive liberal opinions when it's outside of traditional, I'd say, feminism and things like that.
Yes, she's a very big feminist, and that's what colors her anti-men wearing dresses views. But at the same time, I'm pretty loud, so I'm trying to keep it low. But at the same time, I think that a lot of people have looked past a lot of her other opinions. And with this particular thing, she said she doesn't want to recast Snape. Yeah. That also says a lot for the fans on the other side.
And although I don't agree with J.K. Rowling, some of her progressive opinions, I do agree with her on her trans stances and things like that. But I like the fact that there's somebody on the left, and I do like characters that kind of have their own opinions on individual issues, meaning they don't fit in these hegemonic blocks, whether it's the right or left and things like this. And although I might not agree with her opinions, I have to appreciate those are her true and honest opinions. Okay, let's go into the next Harry Potter story.
So this is from Variety, and once again, on J.K. Rowling's views. Harry Potter star Nick Frost disagrees with J.K. Rowling's men who believe they're women views. He disabled Instagram comments amid backlash to working with her. We don't align in any way.
And it's just funny because the actors themselves still want to get her canceled, and she's the one they're getting all these opportunities from.
And they're also very scared, I think, themselves of that association and the fan backlash and comments from their fans. He's playing Hagrid, which is also a very beloved character.
Yeah, but the problem is he's actually getting backlash for he hasn't read the tea leaves, or he doesn't understand the cultural shift that has happened, because many of these actors live in their bubbles and they just don't understand what's going on.
But they do see the fan reaction, for example, here on their comments, saying, how can you possibly be working with her? This is outrageous, which is crazy because, yes, the men who think they're women activists are very loud, but it's a very small crowd, but they're able to make a lot of noise online. So it scares a lot of people out of saying what they think.
And they also understand who to target. The people that will apologize and bend the knee, those are the people they will target because they're weak. The people that just won't apologize, like David Chappelle or J.K. Rowling, they're too hard of a target to go after, and they know they're not going to be able to get them to bend the knee and make an example out of them, so they just don't go after them. Or if they do go after them after they fail, they're going to stop in general. He's been identified as a weak link, let's say, and they know if they flood his comments and threaten cancellation that he will bend the knee.
He might. But Harry Potter's new Hagrid, Nick Frost, is making it clear he doesn't agree with J.K. Rowling's views on trans rights. In a new interview with The Observer...
1 second. Go back up to the picture real quick. I do like the character. That big change they're able to make here, he really did fit the character.
Well, no, this is the old one. That's Hagrid before.
Oh, that's Hagrid before.
Like from the original films, this is the guy that's going to play him now.
Oh, it's a different actor.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was just hair and makeup.
No.
Oh, you're the Harry Potter expert, not me. So that's why I'm glad I have you in the chair here.
This is still from the original Harry Potter movie.
Why didn't they cast the same guy from before?
Because he's pretty old now.
So
maybe. I think he actually passed away.
Maybe, because I'm saying even if he's old, he'd still be good in the character.
No, I think yes, I'm pretty almost sure he passed away, as did Dumbledore's actor, whose name's escape me right now.
He does have a similar face. I mean, obviously he's shaving, he's clean cut, but his actual facial features, his nose and eyes look very similar.
Yes, well, Hagrid is supposed to be a half giant, so they needed someone like that's really big.
Okay, you can continue with the article. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Let me just, because now... Robbie Coltrane. Yeah, this is Robbie Coltrane's original portrayal. And yes, he unfortunately passed away in 2022. And he was great. And he always went along with fans and little kids who identified him as Hagrid.
Oh, that's great. And I like when Johnny Depp did that as well
Yeah.
as Pirates of the Caribbean. Man, he really embraced that role even
Jack
after
Sparrow.
that role was done, going into hospitals, seeing kids, things like that. That's what really endeared people to Johnny Depp.
And doing the voice, even if he wasn't wearing full costume, he would, anytime a kid would be like, oh, Jack Sparrow, he would go.
Well, also in bars.
So in a new interview with The Observer, the Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz star was asked about the backlash he received from trans rights activists after signing on to play the lovable half-giant in HBO's upcoming Harry Potter series. Rowling, who has courted controversy in recent years by sharing takes on social media that are widely considered anti-trans, is an executive producer on the new series and was very involved with the process of selecting its creative team, according to HBO. Casey Bloys, and Frost revealed in the interview that he had to disable comments on his Instagram post about his casting due to the amount of backlash. However, he said of the author, she's allowed her opinion and I'm allowed mine. They just don't align in any way, shape, or form, and at least he's not going full on against JK like the original cast.
At least he's not going that extra mile, and I do appreciate that because that's kind of the stance I take with J.K. Rowling as well. I agree with her on that certain issue that he disagrees, but I disagree with her on a lot of other issues, and that's the kind of level of respect we used to have in civil society a few decades ago before this huge progressive movement came in and started ruining movies, ruining culture, and just forcing politics into everything.
Yeah, and people are allowed to disagree with each other and still work together and be civil. But because of the expectations of some people on the very far fringes,
I'm just looking at this. Bring up this J.K. Rowling picture with her with the cigar, the whiskey, the ring. She's reminding me of the female Andrew Tate or Tristan Tate here.
Well, she did that after that picture came after the UK made clear their stance that a woman is a biological implication, and then she said, "I love it when I win." And posted that picture.
It is nice to go from somebody that is disagreeing with J.K. Rowling to agreeing with her and giving her credit for a lot of the things she's done. Let's go into the next story.
And Tom Felton is one of the most beloved actors from the original series. He portrayed Draco Malfoy. So Tom Felton sparks backlash after expressing gratitude to J.K. Rowling amid anti-trans controversy. I'm saying the word because it's written in the article, but other than that, I'll say men who think they're women. The 37-year-old actor's comments, he's 37 now? Wow. Come amid ongoing controversy over Rowling's widely criticized views on transgender rights. Tom Felton has ignited a fierce debate online after voicing support for Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling during an interview with Variety at the 2025 Tony Awards. The 37-year-old actor, best known for his decade-long portrayal of Draco Malfoy in the film franchise and set to reprise the role, so he was asked about his stance on the controversy over her views and said, "I'm not really that attuned. The only thing I always remind myself is that I've been lucky enough to travel the world. Here I am in New York. I have not seen anything bring the world together more than Harry Potter, and she's responsible for that, so I'm incredibly grateful." Do you want to watch it or no?
Yeah, why don't we watch it? Because I think this will be the only clip we have for the day. Most of the stuff I get for the pop culture is articles and things like that. And we'll see if I can hear through my beanie.
Oh, you're Tim Pool today?
Well, I'm the orange Tim Pool. I'm the pumpkin head Tim Pool.
How does the sort of Twitterverse controversy around J.K. Rowling's views impact you at all, or impact your work on the world at all?
No, I can't say it does. I'm not really that attuned to it. The only thing I always remind myself is that I've been lucky enough to travel the world. Here I am in New York, and I have not seen anything bring the world together more than Potter. And she's responsible for that, so I'm incredibly grateful.
Well, and that's really great on him. He stayed non-political in New York at an awards show. This is where a lot of celebrities do make these idiotic comments because they feel like they're in this bubble, this safe space, and they're going to tell these reporters kind of what they want to hear. So it was good to see a refreshing non-political take from an actor.
It's good to see, but his comments have sparked a wave of differing reactions. While some applaud him for what they call a classy response, others condemned it as atrocious, spineless, and disappointing. Thank goodness someone in that franchise learned not to bite the hand that feeds him, wrote one user on X. Another, who would have thought Draco would be the most level-headed? However, many feel let down by his comments. This is what privilege looks like, and we shouldn't ignore how much harm looking the other way because things don't affect us directly directly does. Another said, that's a problem, ain't it? People not caring about issues that don't impact them. And I think a lot of people have become way too accustomed to all the other actors speaking out full force, many times because they're getting paid by NGOs to do so. Like Daniel Radcliffe has gone full on, working with the HRC, the Human Rights Campaign, and other non-governmental organizations. So the fact that someone is able to have their own opinions and keep it, as they say, classy is
definitely.
That people are no longer bending the knee.
Now, before we go into the headline story with Chris Evans here, I just wanted to say thanks for everybody that did tune in today. I know I said I might not have a show. I wasn't able to get my paperwork together for my appointment, so there may be no show tomorrow, assuming I can get everything ready to go.
Yes.
Okay, I want to do it before next week, though, so...
Yes.
Okay. Next week, I'm going to try to start clipping segments from this show and putting them on the edited video portion of the channel.
Yes, with my help.
Okay, of course, with your help. I can't do anything by myself.
Well, because you do.
I'm a man. You're a feminist. I need you.
I'm not a feminist. But because you do all the pre-production side and I do all the post-production side, I also wouldn't be able to set up any of the things we do
Yeah.
without your help.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about, at the end of the show, I go into production talk. We're going to talk a little bit about building a set, things like that. Okay, let's go into the Chris Evans story. This was the headline story of the day.
So this is coming from Variety. Chris Evans says it's sad not to be invited to the party for Avengers Doomsday. It's going to be much harder when it comes out.
And Chris Evans doesn't always necessarily tell the truth. A lot of statements he puts out, we find out to be false later. This particular one, I do believe he is telling the truth. I don't think they're going to go back to the original Captain America anytime soon. Once they bend the knee with Captain America and they go back to what worked and traditional Americana, that's truly admitting that Hollywood has bent the knee.
I don't know if I still don't want to believe him, but Chris Evans is bummed he's missing out on all the fun in Avengers Doomsday. In a recent conversation with Screen Rant, Evans, who played Captain America across 8 MCU films, was asked if he still stays in contact with his former Marvel collaborators, considering his exclusion from the highly anticipated Avengers Doomsday. Evans confirmed that they all keep in touch, but added it feels different having exited the franchise in Avengers Endgame. Yeah, I talk to them all the time, Evans said. It's where Pedro Pascal is right now. I mean, it's sad to be away. It's sad not to be back with the band, but I'm sure they're doing something incredible, and I'm sure it's going to be that much harder when it comes out and you feel like you weren't invited to the party. In Endgame, Evans' Captain America ages out of the Star-Spangled Shield after traveling back in time to return the Infinity Stones. He decides to stay in the past with his true love, Peggy Carter, and in the present day passes the Captain America moniker to Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson.
And I actually got a chance to meet Anthony Mackie a lot. He used to come into my bar on a regular basis. He's a pretty good guy. That being said, I didn't like them swapping him into Captain America at all, and the direction they went with the character overall. I thought they really hit the nail on the head with Chris Evans and that traditional Americana feel. That first era of Marvel characters is when they really nailed it, and they haven't been able to nail it since. I'm talking about the original Thor, the original Chris Evans. They even though they still have Hemsworth as Thor, they've transitioned that character into something he's really not. He no longer embodies masculinity and things like that.
They transitioned him into Natalie Portman.
The next story is going to be about Scarlett Johansson. We won't go into it yet, but she was part of that original era. But a lot of they've really burned the bridges with a lot of that original cast, and they don't like the way they have transitioned these characters into something they're really not.
But they've also maintained a lot of them, and essentially forced the hand of Robert Downey Jr. to come back as a villain now. But because
they're having him come back as something like, I don't know. We'll wait for our judgment on that. But the MCU is so burned right now. Even when you get a great actor like Robert Downey Jr. and now you're making him a villain, I just don't think it's going to work like the original Iron Man.
But also because of all the time jumping and the infinite universes and the timelines and etc., they're saying that he stayed in the past in the MCU storyline for Avengers, the original storyline. But again, I mean, they keep bringing people back using all of these excuses. So
Well, you bring up a great point here, and that's nothing has any consequences in the MCU universe. Once you kill somebody, they just can come back because we're time traveling, we're time jumping. Oh no, multiple universes. Nothing has any real consequences. And because they don't have real consequences, it's hard to really build an emotional arc of a character and things like this. You need real consequences. Real life has consequences. I understand we're in a universe that isn't real life, but you need a way to build real consequences so you can have real emotion in these characters.
and real world building and creativity depends on those consequences that
Definitely.
they're now too scared to ever implement because they see themselves doing terrible things and then they want to be able to reverse them and have an excuse.
And they're always trying to one-up themselves. We need more characters in the movie. We need bigger action sequences, bigger explosions, bigger everything. You don't always need bigger everything. Sometimes the small emotional development of characters has a bigger impact on an audience than killing off 10 characters or bringing 10 characters into the movie. You can't develop these characters when you have 20 different characters in the movie. There just isn't time in the script. And if you're going to make time, then you're going to have a 6-hour film. Nobody wants to watch even 2 hours of an MCU film anymore, let alone 6.
And they don't want to watch the TV series either, which could be that, but they ruined that part as well.
Okay,
But someone that got exited out of Disney in a pretty non-friendly way from People, Scarlett Johansson says she asked for her Thunderbolts executive producer credit to be removed. I wasn't involved. Johansson's last appearance in the MCU was in 2021, Black Widow, a prequel released following the end of her character in Avengers Endgame 2019.
And I'm surprised they try to give her an executive producer credit here because her and Disney were at each other's throats for a long time. They had lawsuits and everything else. She obviously still holds a grudge there. Disney, maybe not so much. I think they may want these original characters back, even though they've kind of burned that bridge. It's good to see that she kind of has certain non-moving morals where she's going to say, no, take my name out of that movie. Don't attach my name with it. Me and you are no longer okay. And it's okay to say that, especially when you've been burned by a company like she believes she has.
So she was on an interview, interestingly, with David Harbour, who appears in, I believe, Thunderbolts, and said that he asked, he congratulated her for being an executive producer on the superhero movie amid her character Black Widow being all over this movie. And she said, I asked to have my credit removed because I wasn't involved, Johansson. She's 40, said in an interview. You hated the movie that much? Harbour asked her. And she said, no, you're just wanting that to be the case. And then he said, I think you'd be proud of us. And she said, I am proud of you. But clearly doesn't want to continue to be involved with Disney.
Yeah, and they're trying to make her the new Scarlett Johansson, the Florence Pugh. Yeah, and I just don't think she has the same star power. She's great in independent films, and we've said this before. I just don't like when she's in these huge budget films. She's just not as good.
And she has the same opinions that you just stated. So she said, some of the films that I did for Marvel engaged my character more than others, like in Captain America the Winter Soldier with Chris Evans. We were really dynamic. In some other films, the cast was so enormous and there was so much plot to serve that you start to feel like you're a device to move it along.
Yeah. One more thing I was going to say about Scarlett Johansson. She is in the new Jurassic Park. I was a little bit disappointed when I watched the trailer. It was her and the scientist were in the trailer a lot, and it seemed like they gender swapped the two into each other's roles, where Scarlett Johansson should have been the scientist and the other person should have been the main hero. Mm-hmm. Scarlett Johansson just didn't look like she quite fit in the role. If you are going to put a female in a very masculine role, I guess she's the best you're going to pick, but still she looked a little bit out of place, at least to me, in the trailer. We'll see what happens when the final cut of that movie does come out. Mm-hmm. But it's really hard to make Jurassic Park have the same pop the original did. When I was a kid, the original Jurassic Park came out, man, dinosaurs became real for the first time. But after they're real and you've had that CGI experience, it doesn't have the same pop when you go back and back and back to it.
Well, and in the originals, it wasn't CGI for a lot of it. It was practical effects.
It was practical, but a lot of it was CGI as well. So, Okay, let's go into the next thing, and that is Sydney Sweeney.
So from Variety, Sydney Sweeney gained more than 30 pounds, trained for 3.5 months for Christy Martin biopic. My chest got bigger and my rear got huge.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've seen her any pictures of her when she put on that weight. That was the thing. I would have liked to see pictures of her and her kind of embrace that into the public for other kind of females to see. But it seems like she did the role, put on the weight, and she may have lost it already. That being said, the reason when she puts on the weight, she put on the weight in a healthy way, meaning she worked out on a regiment to play this boxing character. So it wasn't like it was a bunch of fat. It was actually very healthy weight. At least that's kind of what I'm going to assume. I would love to see pictures from her on the film set. I will be interested to see this because I am a big combat sports fan in general. Sydney Sweeney is picking very interesting roles, and she's getting a lot of roles thrown at her. She's getting biopic roles thrown at her, Gundam roles, different IPs that have big fan bases. So her career is looking very promising these days. And for her to pick a role like this, when she's having so many other big IP roles thrown at her, really shows that she wants to be more of an actor's actress, I guess.
One of the few. But Sydney Sweeney opened up in a new W magazine cover story about her dramatic transformation into boxer Christy Martin for an upcoming biopic, saying that her body was completely different after months of intense training. I came on board to play Christy, and I had about 3.5 months of training, she told the publication. I started eating. I weight trained in the morning for an hour, kickboxed midday for about 2 hours, and then weight trained at night for an hour.
Now, the person that she's trying to play, though, is Christy Martin. She's a famous female boxer. She was in very great shape, but she didn't put the weight on in the same place as I think Sydney Sweeney is. She said she got big boobs, big butt, and I'm expecting maybe she got a model figure and she just has a different genetic structure than the other boxer. Is this her in the? Oh, so she didn't put it on like I thought maybe. She does really look like that boxer. She put on a lot of fat. Okay. And a lot of muscle, it looks like.
Yes. And
she looks like she really embraced the role. And it's good to see her not necessarily always taking a role where she's going to go to her sex appeal.
And you were also a personal trainer at some point, so discussing the body issues you're not doing it to be gross.
No, not at all. Yeah. And I used to teach jiu-jitsu, take Muay Thai, wrestling, stuff like that. So this is why I like combat sports a lot, even now that I can't train it anymore because I have back issues. But I am very interested when actors take on athletic roles and seeing their training regimens. I remember Will Smith when he took on the Muhammad Ali role. That was huge, and his training regiment was big for that as well. Okay, let's go into the next one. And I believe this is Russell. God, why am I forgetting this?
Wyatt Russell.
No. His dad, Kurt Russell.
Okay.
Kurt Russell is his dad. We were talking about Big Trouble in Little China a few weeks ago. I recommended it. That was his dad. I like his dad a lot more than I like him, but let's read into it.
So this is from Bounding Into Comics. Thunderbolt star Wyatt Russell denies political motives behind Marvel casting white man as U.S. agent. That's all Wikipedia. Bull.
And nobody even heard about this until this magazine tried to make an article about it. Again, putting race into things, bringing politics into movies, trying to get actors to make a statement that will kind of be in the political realm so they can rally progressives and things like this. This is a non-story, but let's read into the non-story anyway.
So according to Thunderbolt star Wyatt Russell, while many people have come to believe that his casting as the MCU's version of U.S. agent was meant to be a commentary on black-white racial dynamics in the U.S., this idea is nothing more than Wikipedia bull.
And he is no Kurt Russell, let's just be honest. But as far as modern actors go, he's as good as you're going to get. These modern actors are husks of what the last and the previous generations have been. Hollywood is just not able to make superstars like they used to, whether it's male or whether it's female. And it may be because they no longer know what femininity and masculinity is, and neither do these writers. So these archetypes just aren't fitting the characters as well as they used to be. Okay, let's go into the next article here, and that is going to be Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt.
Oh, sorry, not Brad Pitt. Brad Bird. Is that right? Brad Bird?
Incredibles?
Yeah. What's the director's name?
The new one? They said it yesterday and I forgot.
No, the old one.
Brad Bird.
Brad Bird. Okay, I was
You
right.
said Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I was thinking F1, Brad Pitt. It's been in the headlines a lot. I'm very interested in watching that movie. But as soon as I've seen Brad, I went to Brad Pitt F1.
So this is from Screen Rant. Incredibles 3 gets new director in major shakeup for Pixar movie. Pixar has delivered a major shakeup for To Incredibles 3 with the announcement that Brad Bird was not directing the third film. The longtime veteran of Pixar made a splash with The Incredibles in 2004 and returned to direct the sequel in 2018, leading to confirmation that he was developing a third entry to close out the trilogy. Disney and Pixar announced Incredibles 3 at D23 in 2024. This announcement included acknowledging Bird's involvement, which was not specifically detailed, but led to the belief that he would be back to direct the Parr Family. Now it's been revealed that Bird is not directing Incredibles 3, with Pixar tapping Elemental's Peter Sohn to direct the third installment. Brad will remain involved in the new movie, currently writing the screenplay.
Yeah, nothing against Peter Sohn. Supposedly he's a lovely guy. I know very little about him, but he's a much worse actor with a failed track record, and to put him in charge of this when you already had a fairly successful director that was doing the originals, stick with what was kind of working. I would have assumed, but this is Disney. They're better at building business deals than they are at building IPs. They're in the business of destroying IPs.
And Elemental did not do very well, especially with the political dynamics, I'll just say. And at the same time,
it's going to be very interesting what happens with this when we talk about political dynamics, because The Incredibles is a family. So family should be at the heart of it and naturally draw the story kind of forward. I'm expecting politics to be injected into this, but we'll see if Disney's smart enough to move away like they did in Lilo and Stitch for the most part. Mm-hmm. Okay, what time is it? Okay, yeah, we can go into the next story here. I had quite a few stories because I missed yesterday's episode, so we'll start going into some business, economics and business dealings as far as it's related to pop culture.
So this is coming from Deadline. Decades after its joint venture journey began, Hulu's sole ownership by Disney finally resolved with $439 million payment to NBCU. Bob Iger exults.
And this is kind of what I was hinting at a minute ago. I didn't realize this was the next story we were bringing up. But Disney is better at making business deals than they are at making their IPs or content. They make these business deals and then they destroy these business deals on the back end by trying to make horrible content. $439 million is what they ended up paying. This should have been a $7 to $10 billion deal. How they ever got it down to this amount is absolutely insane. Iger is going to be bringing this into the conference call and everything else, the quarterly earnings call. They can lose a lot of money on a lot of movies when they make a business deal like this. This may put them in the green in a lot of different aspects. Why don't we read a little bit about it?
So the long and winding road of Hulu, which started in the pre-smartphone era as a streaming...
Well, 1 second. They're going to be able to slap Disney Plus on Hulu now and act like Disney Plus has been successful when it hasn't. It's been Hulu that's been successful.
Yes, as they were discussing yesterday
Yeah.
on WDW Pro. So the long winding road of Hulu, which started in the pre-smartphone era as a streaming joint venture involving NBC and Fox, has concluded with the finalizing of Disney's buyout of Comcast. Disney is paying an extra $438.7 million to Comcast NBC Universal on top of the $8.6 billion it committed in 2023 under the terms established in a put-call arrangement unveiled in 2019. The deal, which was accompanied by Disney's $71.3 billion acquisition of most of 21st Century Fox, fueled Disney's streaming ambitions as it prepared to launch Disney Plus. While Disney gained full operational control of Hulu, the agreement preserved Comcast's 1/3 financial position pending the outcome of negotiations over the final price. At $27.5 billion floor value was set, with multiple third-party appraisals then entering the discussions. Disney's appraisal, not surprisingly, came in below the $27.5 billion level, while NBC You rendered an estimate that was substantially higher, Disney said in an SEC filing. Disney CEO Bob Iger and Comcast CEO Brian Roberts publicly jockeyed over the value of the service in a sector increasingly defined by streaming.
Yeah, and I don't know how they got that deal, but I know banks were involved in giving estimates and evaluations of Hulu, and they had, I believe, 2 or 3 banks involved, and they had a third or a fourth bank ready to go with their estimate. Ultimately, this thing was extremely undervalued. Disney got a steal on this, or pockets lying behind the scenes. I don't know, but it was something I definitely suspect. Okay, let's go into Diddy. I think Diddy's next. And he made the headlines, and I just wanted to kind of bring it up really quick.
So from Variety, Diddy is still paying legal fees for ex-girlfriend testifying against him.
Yeah, and he's paying her legal fees. I wouldn't expect the testimony to be too bad.
I haven't been following it since especially the beginning, so I don't really know what's been going on.
No, I stopped kind of following it at a certain point and stopped caring about this trial. I'll recover it once it comes to a conclusion. But I've kind of lost track of it. And this whole Diddy trial has kind of lost traction online as well. If there would have been cameras in the courtroom, people would have been covering this nonstop. But because there wasn't, I do follow a couple people there in the courtroom on a daily basis, so I do get updates. But I've lost almost complete interest until the verdict actually comes out.
So Sean Diddy Combs is footing the legal bills for the woman currently testifying against him in his gross traffic trial. Jane, a woman who dated Combs from 2021 to 2024, said on the witness stand that Combs helped her hire the lawyer she is currently represented by, and that Combs is still paying for said lawyer. Jane admitted on Friday that Combs also continues to pay her $10,000 rent in Los Angeles. Jane is alleging Combs coerced her into having
paying her rent in Los Angeles?
$10,000 rent. Jane is alleging Combs coerced her into having days-long substance-fueled adult parties with male people that do it. She said she repeatedly told Combs she did not want to do that with other men, but when she expressed those concerns, Combs threatened to stop paying her rent and threatened to release footage of these parties.
Okay, we can move on to the next story here. I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of update of some of the drama going on in that case. I will cover it once it comes to a conclusion, but like I said, I kind of burned out of that case, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Let's go through this really quick. The next story is actually pretty interesting after this.
This is from The Hollywood Reporter. Paramount to cut another 3.5% of U.S. staff as it awaits word on Skydance deal close.
And again, they are cutting the fat. We went into another story the other day where they were cutting different relationships with different businesses they had because they're cutting fat and they need this deal to close. The fact that it's not closing, they're going to have to be making cuts, and more cuts until it comes through. Okay, this was kind of just an update story in which I was given. And I thought this was pretty big and interesting.
So I couldn't find really an article in English about this other than from RTL Today. I believe President Claudia Sheinbaum actually spoke about this recently.
Oh, she did.
Netflix says to spend $1 billion producing content in Mexico.
Oh, in Mexico. Wait, because that wasn't the headline that I had.
No?
And that wasn't the headline other people were reporting. So what happens is I gather the headlines. She sometimes gathers articles to go with them. One moment, I just want to get...
Spanish Originals was the original headline.
Yes.
But again, I couldn't find that headline.
Yeah, so Spanish Originals was the headline. And the reason I'm finding this interesting, when you say Spanish Originals, that's going to include Spain, most of South America, Central America, and Mexico. So $1 billion doesn't seem like a ton of money. But when you say just Mexico, $1 billion, that is interesting.
Well, let's see how maybe it's just the headline and the phrasing's different. I don't know. Netflix said Thursday that it would spend $1 billion over 4 years producing films and series in Mexico. And again, this is from RTL, so I don't know how
one moment,
trustworthy it is.
One moment. It says it's going to spend $1 billion producing Spanish films in Mexico, which would make sense because they have a huge studio here. So maybe they're going to make all of their Spanish content for all their different Spanish districts or properties here.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. So
That would make sense. Just like in Canada, Netflix films a lot of their content out of Vancouver because they have a major studio there, and it cuts costs that way.
Okay, so Netflix said Thursday it would spend $1 billion over 4 years producing films and series in Mexico in a boost to the government's effort to attract investment in the face of U.S. tariff threats. The streaming platform's co-chief executive Ted Sarandos made the announcement at a news conference alongside Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, which is why I kept seeing her face everywhere, who hailed the plan as a win for Latin America's second largest economy. Sarando said Mexico, which is home to Netflix's Latin American headquarters, was a very important and growing part of the company's regional and global operations. President Sheinbaum, we look forward to working with you and your many teams within the government, not only to grow the economy and create opportunity, but to bring more of this beautiful Mexican rich culture and heritage to the world.
Yeah, so this is a huge deal for Mexico now that we're reading this article rather than the other one I originally read. The fact that Mexico could become the Vancouver of Latin America, meaning you can make Mexico look like a lot of different South American places, countries, things like this. Their headquarters and their biggest studio in South America is here. It is fairly safe to film films in Mexico because it's an expanding film industry and the government is wanting to protect that industry. A lot of other South American and Central American countries, it's just not safe to film a lot of films there. So this is huge for Mexico, and good on Mexico and good on Sheinbaum for this. I don't necessarily like Sheinbaum on a lot of her progressive opinions, but once in a while I will point out when she does a good thing, and this is one of those good things. I always say the GMO corn she kind of banned from the U.S. was another good thing she did, so good on her for this.
With this, I don't know how much I would praise her, and I do think, as you say, the deal, and I think the big thing was also having the Netflix headquarters, at least in Spanish, for Spanish content, Latin American content here in Mexico. But I don't know.
Well, we as much as I'm praising her right now, you might want to watch tonight's show because I'm not going to be praising her politically tonight. She has made some seriously bad moves that is jeopardizing Mexico's future, and I'm not talking tariffs here. I'm talking military actions and things like this. We'll get into that tonight at 9:15 on our night show. We'll go a little bit more into different political issues rather than just the LA riots. We covered it pretty heavy last night and the night before. I was pretty angered about all the violence that was happening there, and that's all that was in the news headlines yesterday. So I kind of felt like we went on some really long tangents about that.
And as a Mexican who has consumed content from Netflix made in Mexico by the studios, even a while ago they've been doing stuff here. I will admit some of the series are very good, like Club de Cuervos, which I keep trying to make you watch to learn Spanish, Mexican Spanish, but you won't. But for example, Club de Cuervos was really good. They've done other things. Roma, they brought kind of to the forefront as well from Alfonso Cuarón. But they've also done some terrible things. Like there's a show where the moms end up with swapped babies and then they have to go through it and like through all the mess of that. And they've done a lot of, I will call them telenovela adjacent content as well that I'm not a super big fan of. They kind of have picked and chosen very few directors and very few content production houses to work within the Netflix sphere in Mexico. And I think that's taken away from more creatives and more people telling stories that are Mexico or American related within the streaming platform in Spanish.
Yeah, but I will say this about Mexican content because I turn it on once in a while, and just the cinematics of it, a lot of it, I'm not saying all of it, is really on top tier level. I'm talking South Korea, Hollywood, Canada content as well. So the fact that they're really able to hit the mark when they are, even though if they're not hitting it every time, they're really emerging into a major player within the film industry. Mexico is. So good on Mexico. We live here, so I'm always good.
Mexico's always been a very important, even though not considered by the U.S., but a very important maker of films and also giving directors like Guillermo del Toro, Alfonso Cuarón. But at the same time, we've been kind of overshadowed by the U.S. a lot of the times.
Okay,
and some things we make are terrible.
Let's go into the last story of the day.
So, from the AP, video game performers on strike for almost a year over AI issues reach a tentative deal.
Yeah, and this was good on them. They needed to come to this deal now because if they didn't, they weren't never going to get a deal. What do I mean by that? AI is coming and it's coming quick. We've just seen the new Google VO3 drop, and in video games, the performers are already basically AI and they're putting their voice over top of it. Now I understand they were having the dots all over them and doing the movements, but you're going to need actors less and less. So any kind of deal that they could have cut right now, they needed to do it now before AI technology in the next 6 to 12 months really advances in a place where they don't need video game actors anymore. So I don't know the ins and outs of this deal. I did know they did desperately need to come to a deal. I'm guessing they made some major concessions. Let's go into the article a little bit.
Okay. So the Union for Hollywood's video game performers has reached a tentative contract with several video game companies that may bring an end to an almost year-long strike tied to use of artificial intelligence. Members of SAG-AFTRA went on strike in July 2024 after negotiations with game industry giants came to a halt over artificial intelligence protections. SAG-AFTRA said that the unregulated use of AI posed an unequal or even greater threat to performers in the video game industry than it does in film and TV.
Exactly what I said.
Because the capacity to cheaply and easily create convincing digital replicas of performers' voices is widely available.
Okay, let's go down. Let's see if it says how long this contract was for. Was it a 3-year contract, 10-year contract? Does it say? Because that's huge when it comes to this. Because once this contract runs out, if it's 3 or 4 years, I'm expecting AI to. I don't know if the video game industry is even going to want to cut a deal at that point.
Hold on. The union reached tentative several. Okay, no.
Okay, maybe it doesn't say, but
Well, it says at the end. It says SAG-AFTRA said it anticipates the terms of a strike suspension agreement will be finalized with the companies soon. Union members will remain on strike until such an agreement is reached. The tentative contract deal still needs approval by the national board and ratification by union members. Video game performers had previously gone on strike in October 2016.
okay,
But it doesn't say.
That's kind of good. Okay, that's it for the stories for the today. Let's talk a little bit about production. And today I'm going to talk about building a set. So this was a much more simple set that we kind of built, but some things I generally do when I'm building a set is I have my main light on this side, but if I turn off the lights on this side, my face is going to be kind of be black, so I need lighting from both sides. So I usually add some kind of practical light on the opposite side my main light's on. Underneath that, I'll always put usually my greenery or my trees. They're always fake. Always use fake trees. The real trees are going to die. You're not going to be able to replace them on sets as easy. Fake trees always look lifeful and things like that. A good tip about these fake trees are always really cheap to buy as well, which is great. But the pots they're in, this is the original pot it's in. So if I would have put this on the desk, it kind of probably would have looked horrible. But you buy these pots. I think this pot cost me about $3, which was fantastic. So I actually, when I didn't have enough fake trees, I would put them on my 2 different sets. I would use the same ones, but I would just have different pots. So having fake trees, usually from IKEA, I buy these things, and then different pots really helps you, and you can put them in different places, different sets.
Yeah,
things
IKEA
like
actually has really good fake plants,
They do.
especially on film where you can't really go up to them and see them up close. But why is it important to have greenery? Because I don't like it.
Well, yeah, you just need it to have some color pop, because if I did take this greenery out, everything is basically skin tones, and you need a little bit of color pop, a little bit of life to the set. And you always want to put it under your lamp, or usually under your lamp, which is your practical light for the set, because it's going to actually make it look green. Let's say if I take it off, if I hold it up here, you can see it's not green at all. You need direct light on your plants so it really has that green pop, that life. Again, this little plant up here, this is the original pot it was in. This one wasn't as bad, but again, I bought a little pot for it. Sometimes if I want it to be white, this pot wasn't bad, so it gives it 2 different looks, which is fantastic. But again, these ones I bought from IKEA and they came in a 3 set. If you notice our night show, I have the other 2 of this set right next to our on-air light on that set. And that being said, I have a TV behind me. This was a big TV. I used to roll it. It's on rollers, so I can roll it between sets. If I'm doing war mapping or I want to do something like that in the future, I can use it as a practical prop as well. So it has a lot of uses. That being said, a cheap way to do a TV would be a green screen behind you. That's what most people do. I just like it to be a little bit more practical. That's also why I like to show the TV, so I can have a little bit of texture on the outside. Again, another practical light over here, which is great. The on-air sign, just if I turn this off, it's a little black on this side of the set. So I just wanted something that kind of lit up, so it gave it balance, stuff like that.
And why is it important to have practical lights that are visible on set? Because I never understood this until I understood it.
Yeah, practical lights just, it's done a little bit wrong here because I have the main light here, the practical light here, but I want both sides of my face lit up. The practical light just subconsciously lets the viewer understand why this side of my face is lit up. This light is not lighting up my face at all. If I turn this off, it gives it a very tiny light, but turn it back on, it didn't do much. It's actually, I have a ceiling light here. I disconnected this half of the ceiling light, so only this one's coming in, lighting this side of my face. Also, this practical light subconsciously kind of makes it sense that the background's lit up. I actually have a separate light back there lighting that up. Lighting is actually the big key. I have another light up there I can't reach right now, actually lighting my computer up.
Do you want me to bring
Yeah, why don't you turn it off real quick? Just put it under the desk. Yeah, that's what the computer usually looks like. Put the light back now, and now the computer is lit up. You'll notice sometimes I actually forget to turn that one on because I can't reach it from here, so sometimes I forget. But lighting is the most important thing. Other than sound. Sound first, we talked about sound. Lighting second. I actually have quite a few lights on this set here. That being said,
So there's actually 7 lights right now turned on that most people I don't think would even notice.
yeah, and my main lights over here, it's kind of have side lighting. That's why my face has a little bit more texture to it or variety. It's a little bit more shadowed on the side. That's intentional. On the main side at night, it is what would be considered studio lighting or comedy TV lighting, where everything's kind of lit for the most part.
And for men, usually having that, and you always used to, what's it called? Rembrandt?
Oh, Rembrandt lighting.
Which I hate. So for males, it actually works really well to have more shadows and depths to their faces. It makes face look a lot more interesting, but it also highlights imperfections a bit more, which is why Rembrandt lighting for women, and I hate it, is not as good because it highlights more.
Yeah,
things.
this isn't so much. It is Rembrandt lighting if I turn off that light, but because I have that other light, it's not traditional Rembrandt lighting. I have a lot
Want me to
more.
turn it up?
Well, you can't reach it. The people are watching, I tell you. So this is what it would have looked like without that light. I actually pretty much like this, but it helps me just see things a lot better if I do have 2. And yeah, so I add that light in. I was going to say something else now here. Oh, I very often recommend everybody use your phone if you're just getting into this. And it's very interesting because if you do use your phone, lights are a lot cheaper. Mm-hmm. So buy lights, learn to use the lighting and make the phone look as good as possible. You can make the phone look really good. You can also turn the phone into non-automatic settings. So then you can really adjust your lights and things like this. But knowing lighting is going to really teach you one of the fundamentals you're going to bring over every time you make a set and things like this, so you can always make it look fairly well.
And with lights, you can just get like dinky ones off of Amazon. And also, because I broke that one light bulb, we realized that light bulbs that you can connect to Wi-Fi or where you can change colors are actually a lot cheaper nowadays than they used to be when we started.
Yeah, buying smart bulbs like no name brand ones off of Amazon are extremely cheap. I think I bought one the other day for $5. When I originally bought my smart bulb, it was $50. It was the first ones that came out. So the cost of smart bulbs are cheap. And I learned something in photography and photography lighting, and that was, say if you do need a lot of light on set and you don't want to use more expensive video lights, using an umbrella and a light bulb holder where you can stick the umbrella in there and you just have two cheap light stands with these LED bulbs, you can pretty much light the whole set with a lot of light using umbrellas. A lot of people, when they're doing video production, don't understand the use of an umbrella and things like this, but they can be very functional, especially if you're trying to do lighting for cheap. It is actually from flash photography, but I noticed in video photography, especially if you're trying to light the whole room with a lot of light, which can be very expensive if you only have video lights and they don't work so well, the umbrella trick really does help.
You mean umbrellas like for the rain?
No, photography umbrellas, but they're really cheap. So I would have the bulb here, the umbrella would kind of be here, and the light would shoot into the umbrella, and it would blast the light back on you so that you're not getting direct light, which is nice. It gives you a little bit softer of a light. And you can get bigger umbrellas, which really softens the light a lot more and really makes the skin a lot less harsh. For males, harsh lighting is not so bad, but for females, you typically want to soften it a lot.
And those umbrellas have a reflective surface on the inside, which is what makes the
Oh,
light
not necessarily,
bounce. Okay.
but a lot of the times
Or
they
white.
have a reflective surface. I don't necessarily always recommend a reflective surface. I like the white umbrellas. The white umbrellas are very interesting because they're white, so they reflect light back very well. Also, if you get white umbrellas, you can get transparent ones. So then you can use, if you want indirect light, you can use it how I just described, or you can turn it around and the light bulb will shine through the white umbrella, which will give you still a diffused light, but a bit harsher of a diffused light. So it's very interesting. This is why I always recommend learning photography first, because it's going to give you the fundamentals of how to operate a camera, how lighting operates, things like this. Photography was a big help when it came to learning videography. I always say I failed at videography when I first tried. I then went into photography for about a year and a half, learned the fundamentals, and then I was able to come back because I had a foundation at that point.
And also using, I think, for example, if you have white ceilings, being able to use that to bounce light off and learning where light goes, how to bounce it, and what different effects you can make.
Oh, definitely.
With direct lighting versus diffused versus a bounce.
Yeah, bouncing lighting off of walls. Most people have white walls, works very well. And you can very often just look for light bulb holders that you just screw a light bulb in that you can actually put on a light stand. I think they're like $5 on Amazon. We have a bunch of those. We use them on the other set. We use them for the background on that set. But lighting is very important when you're making the visual for anything. The most important is obviously sound, though. And if you don't have a camera, you're in luck because you probably have a cell phone, and the cell phone is the one tool that is very versatile for everything. Even for sound production, you can plug the mics into the phone as a recorder. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. We're right back here every day at 12 Central with our pop culture show, except for tomorrow. I may have an appointment. Then again, I may be back here. We have a night show at 9:15 Central. That's me and Nat right back here again. And just before that show at 8 Central, Nat has a Spanish show in all Spanish. So if you're a Spanish speaker, go check it out. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe.
Goodbye.